Welcome to Compass Points, the weekly podcast for CompassKnox.com. CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more.
Welcome to Compass Points. We're a podcast about Knoxville and Knox County government, politics, business, education, anything else really that is important locally that we pay attention to. And I'm Scott Barker, the editor of Compass. We're a subscription-based website and newsletter, and we report on all these things. You can find us at CompassKnox.com. We are recording this on Friday at Barbarian Production Studios in Rocky Hill, and our engineer is Lord Seth Barber. And Lord Seth, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, my friend. It's a beautiful sunny day. A little chill in the air came sneaking back in on us. We had that, it's springtime, one of those fun fall springs that we get every year. And so still nice, still beautiful. It's still nice to be outside, just a little chillier because look out the window and it says shorts, and you go outside and it says pants. So I'm struggling with that back and forth myself right now, but happy to have some sunshine and some clear air and some hints of spring because I'm ready.
I'm with you there. So we had a few interesting things that happened last week that we reported on. One is the Knoxville Police Department hired a new deputy chief from outside the department. He's from Iowa, or most recently Iowa, and he actually comes with a little bit of baggage that we'll talk about. The AMR, the local ambulance service, reported to County Commission their 1-year contract update, and it was actually some good news, and at least from the response angle there. And then also we're going to start off with talking about the reappraisal cycle. We talked about this a little bit last week. The Knox County Commission gave its blessing to changing the reappraisal cycle to every 2 years instead of every 4 years. And it doesn't mean a whole lot to most residential property owners and business property owners, because it will mean that the reappraisal gets done more frequently and that there will be adjustments to the property tax rate, but that's not an increase in the rate itself. That's done for equalization purposes because county and city governments cannot make a windfall from a reappraisal. But what it does is the businesses that have personal property, which is equipment, machinery, that sort of thing, plus those that get that pay payments in lieu of taxes like utilities and railroads, they will have to pay more under this. They currently, if there's a 4-year cycle in years 3 and 4, those entities get discounts, and in a 2-year cycle they would not, and those discounts can be pretty hefty. Phil Ballard, who's the property assessor, estimated it was about $9.7 million last year, and so that's a way for the city of Knoxville and Knox County to capture that money without raising property taxes. So the property tax rate anyway. So the county commission was all for that. They had the comptroller of the Treasury, Jason Mumpower, made the trip from Nashville to Knoxville to talk to them about it. He is a big advocate of the 2-year cycle. He, in fact, tried to get legislation passed last year to mandate it. That failed, but he's he's going from county to county now, trying to pitch this idea, and Knox County is the third county in the state to take advantage of it. So, beginning in, we will have our regular assessment in 2026, and then we'll have another one again in 2028 under this new program. All of the county commissioners were supportive. They all signed on as sponsors. In fact, Mumpower said, he could go into detail on the proposal, and the details are very complicated. But he said, I know when to take yes for an answer, and and so he cut it off short, and so that will be something that, one of the things that was interesting was no businesses showed up to object. I thought that was fairly interesting. Because they're the ones who are going to have to pay more, on their personal property, their equipment and all. So, but they didn't. I don't know if that's a reflection of them not knowing about it, or just thinking that they were okay with it. I don't know, because they weren't there to talk about it. So, also at last week's county commission meeting, the representatives from AMR, the local ambulance provider, came to give their update on their the first year of their new contract with Knox County, and they Jerry Harnish, he oversees the Knoxville and Knox County operations for AMR, talked about how the response times are improving in every area. The staffing is better. That was a big concern. They gave their employees big raises under this contract, and that's helped quite a bit. And they also have a program where they dispatch nurses, and a lot of times that will keep people from having to be transported to hospitals, and that helps out with waiting times at emergency rooms. Talked about how UT is expanding its emergency room capabilities. Will be basically doubling their capacity. So there are a lot of the emergency room wait times have been a big problem, especially when ambulances have to take somebody there and they have to stay there until someone gets admitted into the hospital. So that's been a big bone of contention, not a bone of contention really, but I mean a big problem that has in the past prevented ambulances from being on the road and in service, and they've been stuck at hospitals. So that's been a big deal. One thing that they talked about that's coming up is, and a lot of people don't realize this, AMR does its own dispatching. They don't get dispatched through the 911 center. That's going to change. The 911 center is currently training dispatchers to work with AMR, and that's that's going to be a big change for them. And I mentioned earlier that the response times were better. They've either met or exceeded the 90% on time rate that they're required to do in 26 out of 28 categories. So that's been the response times are much better than they were, and the commissioners were very pleased and basically said, "Hey, just keep it going. Keep up the work on being on time and delivering the services for people that need it." So moving on, I said earlier that the KPD hired a new deputy chief. He is a Joe McHale. He's coming here from the Institute for Intergovernmental Research, and they do technical training for police departments and other law enforcement agencies. He's been a violence reduction expert for them, which, of course, that's been a big topic of discussion here in Knoxville. And prior to that, he was the police chief in Marion, Iowa, which is a suburb of Cedar Rapids. Prior to that, he was with the Kansas City Police Department, and he is going to be starting late April. He's got a wealth of experience. Chief Paul Noel really touted his leadership and his background, and he is enthusiastic about McHale's coming to Knoxville. McHale is enthusiastic as well. And then, but one thing that's kind of interesting is he's got, as I mentioned earlier, he's got a little baggage. When he was the chief in Marion, Iowa, a part-time custodian filed a sexual harassment lawsuit against his deputy chief there, and that lawsuit is still going on, and he was also named in that for not allegedly not doing enough to stop it, even though the court records show. And I will give a shout out to the Iowa Supreme Court. Lots of they post the briefs that are filed in cases and all that stuff online, so you can really find out what's going on in a case. And when the custodian reported the allegation of sexual harassment, the record shows that McHale did stop things. He made sure that they did not have interactions with each other, that sort of thing. And so I don't know. Of course, you don't know what is going to come of this. The case is dragged out. This happened in 2019, and it's been the trial court. Of course, the city and McHale and the deputy chief who was at the center of this all tried to get the case dismissed. The trial court declined to do that, so they appealed to the Iowa Supreme Court, and here we are 6 years later, and the Supreme Court is getting ready to hear oral arguments next month, or actually this month in March, and so I don't, he is not obviously not directly. It wasn't directly a part of what happened between the deputy chief, and this custodian, but it is at the very least a distraction for him as he gets ready to start his new job here. When he does take over, or not take over, when he does take his new job, he is going to be the deputy chief over the Investigations Bureau, which means so he'll be basically in charge of the detectives who are trying to solve cases in the city. So
the assumption on this is, with his technical background, he is going to add that as a tool in the detective's arsenal, as far as some of the more tech side of detective work, for lack of a better word.
Perhaps. I think the main thing that his work recently is in violence reduction, and that is going out and trying to keep people from committing crimes, not just investigating crime after the fact. But he was with the Kansas City Police Department for 25 years prior to that, and they had he was in charge of field operations and the investigations bureau there. They had a dramatic increase or decrease in violent crime while he was in those positions. So he brings a pretty decent track record in that respect to the position. So we will see how he works. There's one other thing that I wanted to briefly mention is that if many of our listeners will recall that the shooting death of Anthony Thompson Jr. At Austin East High School in confrontation with the Knoxville police from a few years ago, that kind of sparked a lot of calls for KPD to reform itself. The U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled this week that the police were justified in the not only in the they had probable cause to arrest him, but the shooting was justified. One thing that they didn't agree with KPD was that that the officers it was the aftercare once he was shot, the amount of care that they gave or didn't give in this instance to try to save his life. The three-judge panel from the Court of Appeals said they can go to trial over that because a jury could find that they were negligent in giving him treatment. The autopsy showed that he would have that his wounds were absolutely fatal. There was no question about that. But of course, while he's lying on the bathroom floor at Austin East bleeding, there's no way the police could know that. So they still did not do a whole lot. They called for an ambulance, but they didn't directly administer care to him in the minutes after he was shot. So that will go back to the U.S. District Court here in Knoxville at some future date, and they will, unless there's a settlement, there's going to be a trial over that. So those were some of the things that we covered last week. Next week we've got a pretty decent civic calendar on tap. We've got the school board meeting on Monday and Thursday. Thursday is the voting meeting. Monday is a work session. One of the things that they're going to be looking at is the proposed new school at the former rural high school site in northwest Knoxville, near the Beaumont area. That's been a little bit controversial because they're going to have to close. The school system is planning to close Maynard Elementary, Beaumont Magnet Academy, and convert Westview Elementary to a preschool only facility. So, but they generally the school board has been supportive of this move, and they're going to be considering that next week. City Council meets on Tuesday, and the one of the big things on its agenda is a budget amendment. They're going to be adding $10.6 million to the budget that they hadn't put in before. So for a variety of things, $2 million of that goes to the Gay Street Bridge to do repair work that no one anticipated them doing. And they're also going to try to help the business owners along Sevier Avenue in South Knoxville, who not only are having to contend with the closure of the Gay Street Bridge, but they're also having their Sevier Avenue streetscapes, for lack of a better term. That's what they always call it. But they're tearing up Sevier Avenue. They're going to be putting in a roundabout. They're burying utility lines. It's very difficult to get to some of these businesses. The city is going to make some improvements to a parking lot near the main commercial strip on Sevier Avenue, and then to try to encourage people to park there and walk to these businesses. And they're also going to provide the Old Sevier Merchants organization $25,000 to help with their marketing, try to get people to realize that they are open for business, and the best way to get there, which is probably the South Knoxville Bridge. You can go the Henley Bridge as well, but they're going to try to help them out there. Also, a big chunk of this budget amendment would go toward Burlington, $4.5 million for the fire hall that the city's already committed to building, and then another couple million for street improvements there in Burlington. So there's lots of money that they're going to be talking about at City Council this week on Tuesday. So we will also have a report from this week's meetings, winter meetings of the University of Tennessee Board of Trustees. They're wrapping up. This is, as we said earlier, this is Friday. They're wrapping up their meetings today. This is their kind of the big meeting of the year. It's kind of their big annual meeting, and we will see what Randy Boyd, the president of the university, has to say. One of the kind of the elephant in the room is of course the funding from the federal government. Trump administration has talked about slashing research funding. They have threatened universities across the country with a loss of federal funding if they continue to run diversity programs on their campuses. The trustees were not scheduled to talk about that, but we will have a report on what they do talk about next week as well. So that's the stuff coming up. This was a relatively short episode. I want to thank Lord Seth Barber for his production work, and Will Wright for the music that he's provided. And we will report on Knoxville and Knox County happenings all next week. Again, it's Compass Point or CompassKnox.com, and this is it for Compass Points this week, and we'll see you next week.
CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more. And many thanks to William Wright for composing our theme song. Compass Points is a partnership of Barking Shark Media and Barbarian Productions, and recorded by Lord Seth A. Barber at Barbarian Studios, Knoxville, Tennessee.